Welcome everybody, this is Martin, wider known on Twitter as Crocs from Ballzz Fantasy. You are listening to UEFA Champions League podcast, the show that should help and allow you to get better rankings in UEFA Champions League fantasy game. I have been playing UCL fantasy game for 7 years now, with good successes over time. I finished at the best 1% of players throughout the last 2 seasons, and I have been earning around 800 points in each season. In this show, you can expect a lot of analysis and numbers and football statistics. I'm going to help you get better idea how the game works, which players are worth picking, and I want you to be successful in the game. If you are a fan of football, especially if you love watching the biggest football events, this show is exactly for you. Sit comfortably, turn this on your headphones, basically listen to it anywhere you want. Even if you are new or you have totally no idea how the game works, I'm here to help. You can expect that every Monday evening or Tuesday morning before the game, there's gonna be another episode of Ballzz Fantasy. In the third episode, I'll be talking about Matchday 2 picks. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter than the others. A lot of UCL managers are going to also be using their first chips, so I'll let you know which picks are very good for your Limitless wildcard, but I also will be letting you know which picks are good for your wildcard or just generally for your transfers. I'm going to also tackle the captain picks, so we'll talk about the best possible options for each day in the match day. I'll preview each match in this match day and I will do the predictions for all of the games. I'm going to start the pod with a word regarding the British matches being postponed over the weekend, so we didn't see any Scottish games and as well as English Premier League. Usually I would not mention about those circumstances on the pod, however it had an effect over the Champions League as well. So my condolences are going to all of the Brits listening to the pod. And I also need to mention additionally that the game Rangers versus Napoli has been switched from Tuesday to Wednesday game. So beware of that when you'll be selecting your drafts for your UCL teams. Let's go on to the first match. First game on the schedule, we have Sporting Lisbon versus Tottenham. As we know, English teams weren't playing this weekend. However, Sporting have won their game over the weekend 4-0. And the fantasy options were scoring very alright during the weekend. So for example, Trincao, who is 6 millions, or Gonçalves as well had a goal and assist on this game, and the defender Pedro Porro, 5 millions, is also having an assist. Over Tottenham is going to be much harder opponent than what they played over the weekend, so I would say that if you have any Sporting players, I would keep them. If you are not on any chips, if you are on Limitless or Wildcard, I would probably target Tottenham players. Somebody like Perisic or Harry Kane or Son might be very good option. You shouldn't be worrying about Perisic starting because we will be seeing the lineup prior to the game. I'll try to load on those players on Limitless because you have to pick some players from Tuesday games, and actually I do predict that Son is going to bounce back from the scoring indolency. If I would have to predict the result, I would say that there's gonna be Sporting 1, Tottenham 2. And let's go on to the next one. Next game that we will know the lineup as well is going to be Victoria Pilsner versus Inter Milan. We can react early in terms of any potential transfers or the use of our chips for that game. Victoria have won their game over the weekend 3-2 in the domestic league. They are challenging another European giant in form of Inter Milan, who also won their league game over the weekend versus Torino 1-0. For that game, I would recommend to pick players from Inter Milan. I would be recommending one of their wing backs, which is coming in the price of 5.5, which is Denzel Dumfries. If you take a look at the heat map of his regular position in the game, you would see that he's spending majority of his time on the opponent's side. He's also having a really good attacking numbers and have a great attacking potential. So even if the Inter is going to concede a goal, say it's worth a try, especially that he comes in a very reasonable price, and you can pick him over the regular team as well as on the Limitless. You can also try to take an advantage from picking the Inter goalkeeper. However, right now we are not really sure who is going to be starting. So I would recommend to wait to see the lineups before the game, whether Onana or Handanovic starts. The last pick that I would probably recommend is going to be the striker Lautaro Martinez, coming in the price of 8.5. Lukaku is injured currently, so he's going to be probably on the penalty spots as well. Victoria is actually leaking goals. They have lost their last Champions League game 5-1. I might recommend a really cheeky captain option in form of the Argentinian. Although I see that Czech team can score, I'm gonna say that the match is going to end 0-2 to Inter Milan. The biggest game on Tuesday is going to be Bayern versus Barcelona. Bayern had a draw over the weekend versus Stuttgart, ending up in the result of 2-2, and Barcelona have won their weekend game 4-0 versus Cadiz. Usually in the history of these matches, there's a lot of goals being scored for both of the sides. A reliable source on Sunday have posted that there is some stink in the dressing room of Bayern. Although on today's presser, Nagelsmann have said that the atmosphere in the team is good and that they would like to win this game. He also confirmed that Lucas Hernandez is going to start, but is yet to see who is going to be playing close to him, hinting that might be Upamecano. I would probably not recommend to pick any defenders in that game. I would more likely focus on taking attackers. And since we know that Kingsley Coman is injured, we might assume that Sané and Musiala are going to start the game alongside with Thomas Müller and Mane in attack. For any people who are not playing Limitless Wildcard, I'll probably recommend Musiala, and for the people that are playing LL, I would probably go with either Sané or Mane. If you're thinking that Barcelona might win, I would just pick Lewandowski. And as I mentioned before, I predict that there's gonna be a huge load of goals in this game, and I think that Bayern is gonna rack the win 3-2, but it's gonna be definitely close. Game we have Porto versus Club Brugge. Both teams have won their games with the clean sheet over the weekend in the domestic leagues, and it needs to be mentioned that the Belgian team have rotated almost the whole squad. They will be fresh and ready for the clash with the Portuguese giant. I favor the home team to get the win in this match, and there is also a potential for a clean sheet for Porto team. So that said, you can pick the goalkeeper or the defenders from Porto. The goalkeeper Diogo Costa just comes in a price of 5 million, and you have a variety of different options from the defense, starting from Carmo at 4 million. And if you favor the attackers, I would probably recommend Evan Nilsson. Taremi is currently suspended for getting the red card. However, if you think that the Bruges is going to be racking the goals there, I would recommend Jutgla 5.5 or Skov Olsen 6.5 from the middle. That being said, I'm gonna say that the result for that game is going to be 2-0 to Porto. Next in a Tuesday we have Bayer Leverkusen versus Atletico de Madrid. Atletico have won over the weekend 4-1 and Bayer have a draw 2-2. In the interview, Bayer coach have said that it is very hard to create the scoring opportunities versus Atletico. So saying that, I think we can rely on that and we can try to focus on picking up defenders from Atletico. UCL managers have been screwed last week picking up Ivo Grbic as their goalkeeper for 4 million. However, Jan Oblak should be back in the goal for that game. He's priced 5.5 and I think he might be a good option for managers that are on the Limitless chip. From the defense, I would pick either Reinildo on 4.5 or the wingback Molina, also priced 4.5. Jose Maria Gimenez is not going to feature in this game. You can also try your luck with Mario Hermoso. In terms of attacking forces, Thomas Lemar is out of that game. So if you really want to pick somebody, I would recommend Griezmann, Morata or Joao Felix. Leverkusen is in a really bad form, so I'll probably hold off on this week. Facing a really tough opponent. Wouldn't recommend any fantasy options. For my prediction, I'll say that there's gonna be a result of 0 for Bayern and 1 for Atletico. Next game is going to be Marseille versus Frankfurt. Over the weekend, Marseille have won their game versus Lille 2-1, and the Frankfurt have lost their home game versus Wolfsburg 0-1. I really favor Olympique Marseille to get the win out of this game due to the fact that Frankfurt has a really bad form. They are not impressing offensively, so I would probably try with one of the Marseille goalkeeper or defense options. So goalkeeper Pau Lopez comes in a price of 4.5, might be a good punt since he's on the first day of the match day. Another very good option if you are on your wildcard or your regular pick is Nuno Tavares, the left wing back, or you can try with Jonathan Klose, the right wing back, a little bit pricier, priced at 5 million. I would also favor them to score at least a goal, maybe 2. So somebody like Dimitri Payet or Alexis Sanchez might come handy. To be frank, I really liked how Olympique Marseille have looked versus the Tottenham in the matchday 1. Even playing in 10 men, they were really solid defensively, and they managed to hold the attacking Spurs until the 75 minutes, something like that. Since Eintracht Frankfurt doesn't look great offensively, I would predict that this game is going to end 2-0 to Olympique Marseille. On to the next one. The last game of this match day is going to be Liverpool versus Ajax. Of course, we didn't have any English games hosted on the weekend, so Liverpool have a really nice rest, and Ajax have won in their domestic league 5-0. To be fair, there's a lot of great options from Ajax team, comes in a very cheap prices this year. I'll skip the defenders for the game versus Liverpool because I don't see any clean sheets there. However, the midfield is offering us the cheap gems in form of Mohamed Kudus, price 5 million, scored 2 goals over the weekend, and as well as Mr. Taylor, also priced 5 million. Other great options would be 7 million Berghaus and Bergwijn. It looks like Bergwijn is fine after picking up a small injury on the first match day. Dusan Tadic, unfortunately, is a forward price 8.5, so I would probably recommend to skip that pick. And also it is yet to see whether Brugge, forward price 5.5, is going to start. From Liverpool, we had a presser. Jurgen Klopp mentioned that Andy Robertson is going to be out for a while, so we can see Tsimikas starting on the left back. Also, Thiago is back in the squad, so this might be tightening up the Liverpool defense, although I would not expect any miracles with that. I'm fully expecting Liverpool to lose their clean sheet. However, if you are on the limitless chip, you can try with more pricier defenders like Trent Alexander-Arnold or maybe Van Dijk. You can also try with Alisson, and then if something goes wrong, you can swap to another goalkeeper on Wednesday. In terms of offensive assets, I think that you can punt on them if you are on a limitless chip, so somebody like Mo Salah or Luis Diaz might come handy. I would not recommend Darwin Núñez, who might be starting this game as well, because the forward spot is too precious with another picks. It's really hard to predict the result of that game, but I'm gonna say that this is going to end as a draw, 2-2. It does also need to be mentioned that the Rangers-Napoli game is going to be moved from Tuesday to the Wednesday fixture list, and I'm going to talk about it later. The first fixture on the Wednesday list is going to be Milan versus Zagreb. Both teams have got a win over the weekend, so Zagreb won 1-0 and Milan have a result 2-1. Rafael got sent off over the weekend, so we might expect him to start during the week. It is really a shame that he's not classified as midfielder, because he would be a very good option in UCL Fantasy. However, as a forward, we have another players to put into our squads. It might be a hard task for Milan to get the clean sheet out of that game. However, there is a potential for it. So you might try with the defender in form of Theo Hernandez, priced 6 million. If you are on the Limitless chip as well as on the regular team. If you want somebody cheaper, you can try with the center backs who are racking up nice ball recoveries. I think in the first game, Tomori got 10 ball recovery and Kalulu got 8. So you can try with them. I would avoid the right back since there is a new signing from Barcelona, Serginho Dest, and the club captain Calabria. From offensive options, you can try with Charles de Ketelare, price 7.5, or the Selemakers, who scored the goal in the first match day. Dinamo Zagreb actually have a surprising result in the first match day, racking up a win against Chelsea 1-0. I expect them to lose against Milan, however, they might score a goal. So somebody like Orsic or Petkovic might be a good pick for that game. I think it will be a close game between those two teams. However, the home advantage should help Milan to rack up a win. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be 2-1 to Milan. Another game that we will know the lineup ahead of the time for Wednesday fixture is going to be Shakhtar versus Celtic. I really didn't expect Shakhtar to beat RB Leipzig, I must say, especially 4-1. Shakhtar have won their game in the Ukrainian League 2-1 over the weekend, and as we know, the Brits didn't play, so Celtic game was postponed. I don't expect any of the teams to keep the clean sheet, and for sure there are no picks to get on the Limitless wildcard. However, if you are not playing this chip, I would probably recommend one of the midfielders for Shakhtar. Mudryk and Shved are looking like real deal options from Shakhtar. You can also try with Jota from Celtic, but that's it for the fantasy options. This game is going to be hosted in the neutral ground in the Legia Warsaw Stadium, so there's gonna be a lot of fans just enjoying the game. I'm expecting Shakhtar to beat Celtic 2-1. Let's go on to the next one. Next up we have the game Chelsea versus Salzburg. Chelsea wasn't playing over the weekend and Salzburg have won their game in the domestic league 3-0. After the last week, Chelsea have sacked their manager Thomas Tuchel, so they got the new manager in form of Graham Potter coming from Brighton. It is going to be his first game on the Stamford Bridge, so it is yet to see which formation and strategy he will optimize to use. It is really hard to predict which formation he's going to use, but I would probably still recommend to pick either the goalkeeper Mendy. If you are on a Limitless chip, one of the fullbacks, so Reece James or Ben Chilwell most likely, or Raheem Sterling might be a good option for that game. However, I think that there might be better options on the Limitless, so I will not be picking any of the Chelsea players for my team. Salzburg is really capable of scoring versus Chelsea, so if you have any of the Salzburg offensive players, I would keep them for that game. So if you have Fernando or Okafor, I would keep them. I still think that Chelsea have a better quality side, and Graham Potter is a great manager. So I expect that Chelsea is going to win this game 2-1. Next on the list we have Copenhagen versus Sevilla. Copenhagen have lost their game over the weekend 2-1. Sevilla have won their away game against Espanyol 3-2 over the weekend. Surprisingly, there are a good pick available from Sevilla for that game, and it's Carmona, priced only 4 million. Of course, that's only the punt for that match day, because I fully expect Sevilla to lose their clean sheet over the next 2 games versus Dortmund. As I mentioned in the previous pods, Sevilla assets were priced incorrectly in this year. Both teams are actually really bad this season, so I'm not going to recommend picking any players from that game. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have a very exciting matchup between Juventus and Benfica. What a game Juventus had over the last Sunday evening. It got ended 2-2 draw versus Salernitana, but it was almost looking like 3-2. Multiple different red cards were shown, like Cuadrado, Milik, and the coach Allegri. We should probably expect these people to start the Champions League game due to the intense calendar. Benfica, however, continue to have a good run of wins, and they won their game 1-0 over the weekend. This match will probably decide who is going to go out of this group on the second place. I expect really close game, and due to the fact of form of those two teams, I slightly favor Benfica to get the win, but it can go both ways. The picks from Juventus, it's still going to be Mathieu Perrin as a goalkeeper, 4 million. However, I would not expect the clean sheet points. Quite a good option is Filip Kostic, who is classified as a defender, priced 5.5. He got another assist over the weekend, but as I mentioned earlier, I would probably not expect clean sheet points from that game. They should be playing the formation with 2 strikers, so maybe Milik or Vlahovic might be good punts. But as I mentioned earlier, I would slightly favor the Benfica options. Grimaldo got an assist over the weekend again. And his beautiful goal last Tuesday is going to be the goal of this group stage, I think. I would not be betting on the clean sheet as well for Benfica defenders, so I would probably not recommend to get them for that game. You can still pick offensive options like João Mario Neres or Gonzalo Ramos. But that game could be going both ways. So for sure, I would not pick anybody on the Limitless. I will be predicting that this game is going to end up 1-2 to Benfica. Next game we'll have Maccabi Haifa versus Paris Saint-Germain. What a game that will be for UCL fantasy managers. That's the fixture that UCL managers will be loading up on the fantasy options from it. Most of the managers will have free options from PSG. Both people on a regular team as well as on the Limitless should have players in their squads. You can pick Donnarumma for the goalkeeper option, but my preferred option is to have 2 strikers and 1 defender for your Limitless wildcard. On the forward spot, I think we have Mbappe, Neymar and Messi in that order. However, each of them have a really good chance to get double-digit points. And also, all of them are going to be a very good captain armband for the second day of the match day. In terms of the statistics, all of them are very good. Mbappe is racking up the biggest amount of shoots per game. All of them are having really good stats for the away games. As I mentioned, you can pick whatever you prefer. All of them have a really good chance of scoring. It's rather the matter of who are going to be on your third Ballzz spot. My recommendation is to grab one of the fullbacks, so either Nuno Mendes or Hakimi. They're having a really similar output of creating the goal scoring opportunities, with the slight favor for the player from Morocco. So if you are on a regular team, I would probably pick Nuno Mendes, and if you are on the Limitless wildcard, I would go with Hakimi. There is a slight chance that Hakimi might be rotated with Mukiele, but I don't think that will happen. I predict that this game is going to end 4-0 to PSG. Moving on to the next fixture. Next up, we have Real Madrid versus RB Leipzig. Real managed to win 4-1 over the weekend. and RB Leipzig have won against the Borussia Dortmund 3-0. I'll not be recommending picking up any defensive options from RB Leipzig. However, you can try with Real Madrid defenders. There's a good chance of having a clean sheet for Real Madrid, I would say. You can try picking up the goalkeeper Courtois on 6 million for your limitless wildcard. Also, Eder Militao is out, so you can try to take Antonio Rudiger, for example. He's good on ball recovery points and might be picking up an odd goal or assist. From offensive options, we have a few. On the limitless wildcard, I'll recommend Vinicius Jr. Benzema will be absent on for that game, so Vini is going to be the main attacking threat for Madrid. On the presser, Carlo Ancelotti also mentioned that he preferred to use Rodrigo as a false 9 instead of Eden Hazard, so the front three should be looking Vini, Rodrigo and Valverde. You can try with any one of these. Rodrigo is quite a good punt, I would say, if you are doing limitless. And if you are not, I would probably look into Valverde pick just for 6.5. For Leipzig, they have managed to win their game. They have a new coach, Marco Rose. This one was sacked after the game versus Shakhtar Donetsk. Marco has changed the formation. They started to play 4-2-3-1, which diminished Nkunku potential. He's playing as a striker. He's playing as a right wing. Dominik Szoboszlai have returned with the bank for Dortmund game. He might be worth looking at, but probably not for the Real Madrid game. I'm expecting a clean win for Real Madrid, and I'll say that the result is going to be 3-1. Another game on the schedule, we have Man City versus Borussia Dortmund. So as I mentioned a while ago, Dortmund have lost their game to RB Leipzig over the weekend, and City didn't play. I'm fully expecting City to win this game. I will not be recommending any picks from Dortmund for that particular game. If you're on a limitless, I would pick Haaland, De Bruyne and Cancelo. All of them are having a good chance for the returns against Dortmund. If you would like anybody cheaper, I would recommend the left back Sergio Gomez, priced only 4 million. He should be starting, although should is a good word because we know Pep and his rotations. He might be thinking about it differently and, for example, start Ake on the left back. Another good pick could be Ruben Diaz. If you want the midfield differential, I would go for Phil Foden. I'm expecting that this game is going to end up 3-0 for City. And finally, we have the moved game from Tuesday to Wednesday, Rangers versus Napoli. Rangers didn't play their game over the weekend. Napoli continued their good form with the win 1-0 over the Spezia. Rangers were looking like one of the worst teams in this UCL campaign, and on the opposite side, Napoli looked like a beast against the Liverpool on the first match day. So I highly suspect that we will see another good game for Napoli. Napoli should win it really comfortably. I have a huge problem because I'm going to be using limitless wildcard on that game for that match day, and I will probably not have anybody from Napoli. However, I will highly recommend you to pick it on the regular wildcard or onto your regular team. Alex Meret looks like a very good goalkeeper for match day 2. He's priced only 5 million. From the defense, you can pick few cheap differential options. Giovanni Di Lorenzo racked up a lot of ball recovery points last match day, priced 5 millions, and he's very good pick for that price. Another cheap differential would be the Korean Kim Min-jae. Priced only 4.5. He has a really good aerial threat and he's also racking the ball recovery points. Some offensive pick, Victor Osimhen would be the one that I would be suggesting. However, he is going to be out of that game. Piotr Zielinski or Kvaratskhelia are very good options. Kvaratskhelia comes in a price 5.5. He's really not hidden already, but he's a gem. And Zielinski in a price of 7 million. He's on penalties. He is looking very good and he's playing as a central attacking midfielder. So even if you are on limitless wildcard, I would probably highly recommend to take a look into that pick. And I expect that game to be won by Napoli 0-3. Alright, that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button and pass it on to your friends. If you have any feedback or suggestions for me, feel free to drop me an email on bigballsfantasy@gmail.com. And if you really like the episode, you can buy me a coffee using the link ko-fi.com/bigballsfantasy. Remember that as a thank you for buying me a coffee, I'm granting an access to my Discord where we can discuss last minute changes before the match. Thank you for listening to Big Ballzz Fantasy Podcast. You will hear from me in the next episode on the next week. Take care, cheers!